Hey class, your economics coach is here. Looking forward to today's lecture because now we finally get to put supply and demand together and build our model. This is a model of markets for us to understand markets. You can see I've drawn here, let me go to my yellow real quick. You can see I've drawn here my supply curve positively sloped, my demand curve negatively sloped. To be accurate, I should put a subscript 1 on this and a subscript 1 on the demand curve. And that simply means this is the supply curve and demand curve at time period 1 or under a given set of assumptions 1. When you're looking at the combined curves, I'm going to simplify your life. The most important thing we're going to talk about is when you're looking at supply and demand, and you're putting the curves together, there are only three prices of interest. The first price that I'm going to talk about is the equilibrium price. This is a price that produces a situation where quantity supplied is equal to quantity demanded or the market clears. It would be right here, P sub E. You can see, another way to say this is that both the supply and demand curves are intersecting at this point. Therefore, we know that the equilibrium quantity is where QS is equal to QD. In economics, we call that the market clearing price. Okay? Now, understand this, that the supply curve and the demand curve are trying to show us, or they represent, the buying and selling intentions of a whole host of people. Okay? What I'd like to say now is that there's only one price that will equate the intentions of buyers and sellers. Okay? You can see, we'll talk about this later, is that any price above and any price below will cause an imbalance. Now, there is only one price that will equate the intentions of buyers and sellers, and that is the equilibrium price. I like to think of that as the happy camper price. Both sides of the market are happy. If both sides of the market are happy, then there is no basis for change, no pressure for change, and that's what they call equilibrium. Okay, that's the unique definition of equilibrium in economics. The second price that I'm going to talk about is a price above equilibrium. It's over here on the left side in purple. So let's just pick any price north of P sub E and label it P sub A. Draw your price line across. Find out where it intersects the two curves. It hits your demand curve first, and we'll label this as a QD. It hits your supply curve second, we'll label this as a QS. In this situation, a price above equilibrium will result in a surplus. This is the amount that businesses want to sell, and this is the amount that consumers want to buy. You can see there is a disequilibrium condition here. When a market is in surplus, there will be pressure for price to change. And as prices change in a downward direction, you can see that that surplus is getting narrower and narrower and narrower. I'll give you an example. Think of the ugly Christmas sweater in November. You go to Nordstrom's and it costs you $200. What is the price of that ugly Christmas sweater after the holiday season in January or February, for example? It's not going to be $200. It probably won't even be at Nordstrom. It'll be at Nordstrom Rack for $22. The prices come down because businesses are trying to get rid of excess inventories. So the businesses, as they lower prices to get rid of excess inventories, you can see that as pressure for price to fall until you get to an equilibrium point and there's no pressure for change and the market stops for a moment in time. The third price that we're going to talk about is a price below equilibrium. Pick any price below equilibrium and run your price line across. Find out where it intersects the two curves. It hits your supply curve first, so here's your QS. It hits your demand curve second, so here is your QD. You can see now that the quantity that consumers want to buy, come on, let's just do it like this, right here, is greater than the quantity that firms want to sell. And in this situation, we call this distance here, we call this a shortage. Whenever there's a shortage, there's going to be pressure for a price to rise until it hits equilibrium and the pressure is gone. There's no pressure for change. Where does that pressure come from? In this case, it comes from the demand side of the market as consumers are bidding up the price of a relatively scarce product. Does that make sense? Again, so it makes your life pretty easy here is that we have three prices of interest. We have our equilibrium price, we have a price above equilibrium, and a price below equilibrium. In equilibrium, there's no pressure for change. At a price above and a price below or at disequilibrium, there's always pressure for change, and that pressure is pushing you towards equilibrium. I hope that makes sense. We're going to do some modeling now. Talk to you later. Bye.